is now called to order. Andrea, would you please call the roll?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 1:10 p.m. As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Stevens. Ms. Stevens is absent at the moment. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Mr. Kelly is absent at the moment. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney is absent at the moment. Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher's absent at the moment. Mr. Schran.
Here.
Ms. Turner.
Here.
Ms. Conwell is absent. Council President Jones.
Here. Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
All right, Andrea, has anyone signed in for public comment?
Yes. Monica Kunanda.
There's a button you can press and to make the green light come on.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Monica Kunanda. I've lived in Northeast Ohio for the past 10 years. I'm a chaplain at Akron Children's Hospital, and I'm also a foster parent. I'm here to ask you to not build a new prison. As a foster, I know that foster children are at risk for mental health and addiction and at higher rates of incarceration because of their trauma history. As a foster parent, I may not have a lot of time to impact a child, but you can help support after-school programs and create safe places for kids to impact the entire generations and families for the better. I would like to see tax dollars spent towards support for youth in our communities to reduce high rates of violence. The incarceration rate is high in the US compared to most of the world, and it has continued to unjustly affect people of color. I would like to see funding for job skills trainings and mentorship programs. These are the jobs the community needs. I have seen how the psych inpatient unit at the hospital rates have been really high. Capacity has been really high. There are waiting lists for inpatient and outpatient, always. And I hope that you can find better ways to bring jobs and support to our youth. Thank you for your time. Feel free to reach out for any questions.
Kareem Hinton.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to rhetorically ask or say or ask that you ask yourselves, we had a recent death over at the county jail, and I would like for you to ask yourselves how a new jail would have stopped that death from occurring. And I'm sure that you can't really think of that because there is no answer to that. Deaths at the jail and the other misfortunes at the jail happen more often than not as a result of negligence, bad culture, but also understaffing. And with that, I ask you, a new jail does a new jail fix that? I think that that should be your priority. I hope that it would. I hope it's something that if it's not on your radar, that it would in fact be put on your radar. I really believe that, you know, in a desire to really want to do something, I believe that everyone that I'm looking at right now really wants to do the right thing and really wants a lot of the inhumane things that are happening over at the jail to stop. And I'm just saying that building a new jail is not it. I, as a person who is of Cuyahoga County, who lives in Cuyahoga County, I don't want to be paying for a new jail for 40 plus years. I know that building a new jail is going to incur many more expenses than is being presented. So we're talking, you know, a lot of money that's going to have to go towards RTA. We're talking about money that's going to come from probably some lawsuits that are going to happen as a result when some things don't work out with regards to the whole process of the court process, them being denied access to the courts in a timely manner, them being getting ineffective assistance of counsel, things of that nature, things that perhaps haven't been contemplated fully. So coming after me, you're going to get some testimony from another person who's actually been incarcerated in the jail. I hope that you don't just look at me as somebody who's a career troublemaker or something like that. I am not that. I am somebody who is just concerned. I have a voice, and I try to utilize that voice in the things that affect me. I am formerly incarcerated, and I know that anything could happen, and I could find myself incarcerated again, because that's the reality of life. So with that being said, I just want to thank you guys for listening, and I hope that you would address the entire county in regards to the construction of this new jail, not just Garfield. Thank you.
Michael Dunn.
Good day, everyone. Yeah, like Kareem Hinton has said.
Mr. Dunn, if you could state your name for the record.
Oh, my name is Michael C. Dunn, and I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. And I was incarcerated from September 23rd, 2020 to February 23rd, 2022. And my experience in there was the lack of staff, for one, which they had this slang word called red zone. The red zone is you pretty much locked up from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m., where you get the chance to come out to the shower and you have to run to the shower, and it's a big mess. And the county inmate handbook states that you come out from 6 in the morning to 11 for count. Then you're out pretty much the day till 10. So when they don't have enough staff in there working, it's impossible to do that. But the safety issue was, and I was there in 2021, the man died in there, which he was in the cell with a mental patient, which their floor would be like on the 6th or 7th floor. So he's in there with a mental patient and he gets killed. So in saying that, I'm saying that due to the lack of staff, one, putting mental patients in there when you got half sane or 100% sane people, you don't know you being locked up with. And I had got a letter back from Department of Rehabilitation and Correction. Also, I have here copies, if y'all want copies, from Sherrod Brown that stated that I had an issue at hand that they was going to investigate, which they did have a staff from Columbus come down there. I don't know what ended up happening with that, but like I say, well, if you're gonna build a new jail, if you don't correct the culture that's going on in there, it's gonna run over there, and it's gonna be matters worse. So, like I said, if y'all want a copy, I'm willing. I have a copy in my bag. Y'all can get a copy of, and I have the proof of me fighting, and I got some answers back.
Or you can allow any documents you can give to our clerk.
Mr. Dunn
She'll
has
see
already
that
given me the document.
Well, I have more for y'all. I have brought them here.
She'll see that we get them.
Yeah, but like I say, moving to jail, that's not going to work. You have to correct what's going on down there. And plus, I must add this before my time run out. I was reincarcerated because I got this jail ankle monitor on. I was out of place. They only had me in there 3 days. They started remodeling the basement. They starting to change, but to move into jail, if you don't correct what they're doing over there now, it's not going to be over there. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment portion for today's meeting, and I would also let the record to reflect that Councilmember Sweeney is in attendance.
All right, thank you, Andrea. At this time, I'm going to hand the gavel over to Councilman Miller so that he might chair our budget hearing.
Thank you very much, President Jones. The 2024 to 25 biennial budget hearing process is now starting. I'd like to give Councilman Schron a shout out for his leadership role in bringing the biennial budget process to Cuyahoga County. It has stood the test of time and has worked very well for us. I'd also like to thank Executive Ronayne and Director Parfiowitz for their help and collaboration during the process leading up to the budget and for getting the budget books out to us in time so that we could review them before the start of the hearings. We just had public comment, as we will before each of these hearings, and in addition to that, we will have a special opportunity on Monday, November 13th, for public testimony where people can come in and speak about the budget and have a more interactive process than is possible in the public comment. I would ask departmental representatives to please send your presentations to the clerk in advance so that it can be distributed to all members of council prior to the hearing date, and also bring printed copies for distribution on the day of your presentation. My goals for this budget process are that it be open, collaborative, respectful, and fact-based, and that together we find the best ways to use the available resources to improve the quality of life in Cuyahoga County. Today's session is the budget overview, and we're going to start with an overall preview and presentation on strategy by our executive, Chris Ronayne. Welcome.
Thank you, Councilman Miller and Finance Committee Chair. I thank you and all members of the council, Council President, and to all the membership. Thank you for being here today. I also want to thank the citizens of Cuyahoga County, some who are here today and some who invariably are watching from home or work. I want to say that the inputs matter in the construction of our budget, both by our citizens, our council members, and also the many organizations that are our partners on the front line in our community, our many nonprofits that are out there working with us in the public sector, and our for-profit partners as well. It's an all-in effort to deliver a large budget that you and I oversee, and it's an honor to do this. This is my first encounter with you on the budget, and I thank the voters of Cuyahoga County for giving me the opportunity to make this presentation on behalf of our cabinet and our administration. I want to thank all of our employees on all sides and everywhere in this building and in buildings out throughout Cuyahoga County. They work hard every day on your behalf, on our behalf, on the behalf of the citizens. We couldn't do it without our team, and that's all of our team in Cuyahoga County. So good afternoon. Thank you, Committee Chair Miller and members of council. Looking forward to presenting to you today an overarching framework for our biennial budget of the 24-25 biennial budget. And I also want to thank Councilman Schron. I did not know the history about your efforts to make this a biennial budget, but thank you for the early direction that you gave this process. So without further ado, I do want to also, if I forget, thank Walter Parfiowitz, our budget director, and our assistant director, Shante McCurdy, for their work, their hard work, and also fiscal officer Mike Chambers, COO Katie Gallagher, and all the persons that have led up to presenting you with this year's budget and the deep work that they've done with our staff to get this done. Our budget is a statement of our values, the priorities we have set, and the promise we make to our residents every day. It's their budget, it's their taxpayer dollars, and we try to honor it in the values that we fuse through this very budget. It reflects our commitment to enhancing the lives, the quality of lives of those we serve, and the prosperity of our community. I hope that wasn't my time already, but I'll try to be.
It was not.
Kidding, thank you. So it does reflect our commitment, again, to enhancing the quality of life in this community. We are Cuyahoga, a county of opportunity, a vibrant, diverse community. We are home to more than 120 unique nationalities from all corners of the world. Every day, no matter where I go, I'm reminded always that we serve the people. We do that together, council members, and it's an honor to do so. This budget is more than a spending plan. It's a roadmap for the future. It's a roadmap to guide our community's future together. It's a reflection of our dedication to managing taxpayer funds while also addressing the needs of our community. It's a balance, and we are proud to be submitting to you a balanced budget. I'm delivering the balanced budget of 24-25 with a proposed budget of $1.6 billion annually, prioritizing the residents' health and safety. It's a framework I've used from the very beginning, the health and safety, the wellness of our community. Their well-being remains of paramount importance. Without our health, wellness, and safety in this community, we can't be a vibrant community. It's at the core of what we do here in Cuyahoga County. The safety of our residents, no matter where they reside, it's a top priority. That's why I plan to allocate over $360 million to the Sheriff's Department, which includes 40 additional corrections officers. I want to restore staffing levels at the Juvenile Detention Center. Hiring an additional 26 officers will help rehabilitate and support the children in our custody. The budget also includes funding for public defenders to represent those children. And I want to say to our citizens who week in and week out call for the upstream work of delivering justice, we are committed to that with our community and with the professionals on the front line working in our community to deliver a just Cuyahoga County. Healthy Cuyahoga is a region where everyone thrives. Many families rely on the services and resources provided by the Department of Health and Human Services. This budget addresses a critical need for social workers and caseworkers. In our budget, we are planning to hire 40 additional social workers in the Division of Children and Family Services and 40 more caseworkers in the Division of Jobs and Family Services. We are also increasing funding for foster care and kinship care services and putting $2.1 million towards universal pre-K. To continue to deliver these services and programs, HHS needs our help too. The budget recommends a $4.8 million tax levy renewal to go before voters in the March primary. We introduced this just last night as a renewal, and the levy renewal was introduced to you yesterday, but it will ensure our residents receive care, protection, and the support they need to lead fulfilling lives. I can't talk about our families without addressing the need for affordable housing. Housing shortages and exorbitant rental prices are making the American dream just that, a dream. That's why I created the Department of Housing and Community Development to implement innovative strategies and solutions to increase affordable housing and build a more robust county where all can succeed with equitable, affordable housing. The heartbeat of Cuyahoga County as a working team are our 7,000 employees working for Cuyahoga County. In recognition of their efforts, their day in and day out efforts, the balanced budget also includes a 2% cost of living adjustment for all employees. Our employees spend more time, other than at home, at work than anywhere else in their daily lives. That's why I want to invest in our infrastructure. Our buildings need extensive work, as has been said time and again by you, by us, and by the public and our workforce. This budget will allocate $10 million in capital improvements toward facilities. This is $3.2 million more annually than in previous years in proposed budgets in the past. But this will only put a dent in the more than $229 million in needed upgrades throughout the facilities of Cuyahoga County. $188 million of these facility needs are for the current Justice Center complex. Infrastructure is also vital to the advancement of Cuyahoga County. The budget includes funding for the first time for an IT capital plan to address cybersecurity infrastructure that's needed more than ever. We've seen, time and again, attacks on public systems that had we thought in advance about how to build up our cybersecurity infrastructure, we would have averted problems in our society. With a population of 1.2 million persons, transportation keeps us connected, vibrant, and moving forward as a community. This is what we need. We need more transportation improvements. This budget proposes $179 million, yes, in roads, bridges, sewers, and infrastructure, but also in ensuring a multimodal transportation system that is accessible to all. Together, we can continue to work to address the needs of our community and drive Cuyahoga County toward a brighter and more prosperous future. I want to thank you again for the work we do together, and I appreciate the partnership. I look forward to a thoughtful discussion coming up, and I also want to once again, Councilman, if it's the time appropriate, bring up our Budget Director, Walter Parfiowitz, at your pleasure. Thank you, members of council.
Okay, thank you. Before we bring up Director Parfiowitz, Andrea, did you receive a copy of the executive's overall presentation?
Excuse me, yes, we did, and it's a presentation from Walter Parfiowitz, and you all have a copy.
So is the
And we'll make our
comments
remarks
is the
available, too.
comments that the executive just gave?
Oh, the
included in-
remarks? No, not the remarks.
Okay.
They're hot off the press and somewhat contemporaneous, so I'll
Could
get
you
them to you.
send that
Yes,
over
yeah.
so that it can be circulated?
Absolutely.
And then I would like to ask if any of my colleagues have any questions, and I would like to note that Councilwoman Simon is now present. Any questions for the executive? Okay, hearing none, we look forward to working with you during the process, and thank you for coming to give the overview.
Thank you, Committee Chair, and thank you, members of council.
Okay. Director Parfiowitz. And before the director starts, I'd like to make everybody aware of two handouts in addition to the director's presentation. One is a schedule that lists all of the upcoming meetings of the budget process and what departments will be coming when, so that you can plan for your schedule. And the second is that we have departmental schedules that include the 2023 projection, which I think at this point is more useful than the original budget number because it's changed quite a bit. So thank you for the director for providing that. And so those also are on your desks. Director Parfiowitz.
Thank you, Councilman Miller. Members of council, thank you for the opportunity to present the county executive's recommended budget for 2024-2025. We believe we've developed a solid operating plan to accomplish the goals and objectives of the county for the next 2 years. So I'm going to start just to go over our process quickly. Well, let me just continue. So I'll just start with the process. We developed the base budget. We met with our departments. We reviewed the decision items that each submitted. And then we approved or incorporated these decision items based on priority and resources. And we basically recommended a balanced budget. I think you'll see on the general fund side, the Health and Human Services levy side, and also on an all funds basis that everything is balanced. We do have a small issue in 2025 for HHS, but we'll get to that. It's very small. Okay, let me talk about the base budget while we get things together here. So the 2024-25 base budget included these parameters. So we started with pay period 12. So we budgeted salaries at pay period 12 and included a 2% cost of living increase. The employer share of health care was increased by 5%. And there were no changes for attrition or overtime, except that we did include about $6 million of overtime in the sheriff's budget for what's considered mandatory overtime that's covered in their collective bargaining agreement. Other expense categories were all budgeted at 2022's actual levels. We did a little bit of realignment, so we moved part of development to housing, Sarah and her group, and we also moved the IT multimedia group from the IT department to the communications department.
So to my colleagues, on that point, I'm just going to point out to everybody that that it looks like the communications budget is doubled, but that's not really the case because of that transfer that the director just mentioned.
That is correct, Councilman.
And committee members, I just want to just let everyone know we're having technical difficulties, which will be fixed shortly.
Yes, you should have hard copies of the presentation, so we're on page 3. And if you notice on the presentations on the left-hand side, down at the bottom of each page, there is a reference to what pages in the budget book we're discussing at this time, just as a little map. Okay, so in addition, we added controlled costs. We had quite a few issues this year with controlled costs. They included indirect costs, space maintenance charges, and also security. And we also funded the tuition reimbursement program. If you recall, we started this in the last biennial budget, but there was not much activity. When we took the other expenses from the prior year and brought them forward and budgeted them for this year, there was very little activity in tuition reimbursement. So we decided to put tuition reimbursement back almost at full level. We did $500,000 in the general fund and $500,000 in the HHS levy fund. Okay, so now we're at page 4 in the document. So these are the decision items that we received. So we received 38 operational decision items from the departments. The requested decision items totaled approximately $306 million over the 2-year period. Most of the decision items were for vacancies, new staff, controlled charges, and other expenses. Decision items totaling $173 million were approved for 2024 and 2025. So now we're going to move to page 5, which is referencing page 4 in the budget book to go over the decision items. So we have 2 pages of decision items that impact the general fund and the levy fund. So I'm going to go over those first. So first item, creating the Department of Housing and Community Development. We added resources that were provided for voice over IP, disaster recovery, data security, and Microsoft licenses. For law, we added additional resources for insurance premiums. These are primarily increased premiums on our buildings. What was reported to me that property valuations on our buildings went up about $800 million last year. As the county executive stated, we're funding 26 additional detention officers at juvenile court. We've increased funding for assigned counsel. We funded wage rate adjustments for the prosecutor's staff. We funded 40 corrections officers in addition to what was annualized at pay 12. We funded the sheriff's office collective bargaining agreement adjustments, which were primarily parking, about $1 million. Additional funding for jail medical, additional funding for food in the jail, funding 40 additional social service workers, funding 40 additional caseworkers, increased funding for foster care and kinship care, increased funding for job and family services for the SNAP and TANF programs, primarily in the contractual areas. Child support, we increased funding for cooperative agreements with the courts. We increased funding for all the community initiatives of the Health and Human Services Department that include Fatherhood, Family and Children First Council, Homeless Services, UPK, and also reentry. We increased funding for DSAS, specifically Community Support Services, Options, and Adult Protective Service programs. We funded the payment for the Western Reserve debt. We increased funding for the facility's capital improvements. We took the subsidy from $6.8 million to $10 million. We're also funding guest room renovations at the county hotel, but this is only in 2025. And we're also funding the county's public utility. So the next 2 slides, 7 or 8, are funded by special revenue or our more restricted funds. Let me see if I can just get to that page.
Yes, we can start.
Director Parfano?
Yes, yes.
The $10 million going into increased hotel renovations and guest rooms, is that money that we've been allocating all along and that we've been collecting?
No.
Where did that come from? I mean, I thought we had built a fund specifically for this purpose, and it was coming out of hotel proceeds. And how much is in that fund, and why isn't it covering this?
We have about $3 million in that fund, but our intent was always to cover the hotel renovations. All the way out, it was projected all the way out to 2024, 2025. We've been setting aside money through the hotel operations, but there's $3 million in that fund. What they estimate is they're gonna need about $13 million. They're gonna need $10 million more in 2025. It's not a new item.
How could we be that far off as far as forecasting? It bothers me that we don't have our forecasting close enough, that we're off by the tone of about 80%. I mean, that's just horrible forecasting.
Councilman Strawn, we never budgeted for these items. We knew this expense was going to come forward in future years, but never set aside money for it. If you notice in our financials, we always had a reserve on our cash balance of $7 million each year for this year, but we've never exercised it.
I guess I thought from the very beginning, we've been told that we're forecasting for this, which is this inevitable day when you have to renovate the rooms from a hotel and they wear out. And I'm just kind of shocked that we're off by the tune of 80%.
We have a reserve. We have a small reserve there.
Yeah, but you're telling me it's not even,
excess revenue.
it's more of a token than it is a realistic number. If it's supposed to be 13 and we're 3, I don't think anybody would expect that we're doing our job if that's the case. Thank you.
So the next two slides, 7 and 8, are funded with special revenue or restricted funds. So I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly. So additional funding for the Board of Revision for space in their complaint system. Additional funding for common pleas for projects and contracts. Additional real estate assessment funding for the sexennial appraisal. Additional DTAC funding for 2 staff and scanning equipment. Additional wellness funding for water bottles, outfitting wellness rooms here at the county headquarters, and a Fitbit giveaway program. Additional wireless 9/11 funding for personnel, additional personnel, and also for 9/11 contracts, or 911 contracts, I should say. Additional airport funding for an airport manager and 2 operational technicians. These have been vacant for quite a while. Additional parking garage funding for the debt service on the Huntington Park Garage. Additional facilities funding for utilities, specifically electricity, which I guess the county has seen fairly significant increases. Additional maintenance garage funding for fleet, fuel, and also vehicles. Additional road and bridge funding for projects. Additional commissary funding for inmates. Additional sheriff security funding for software, handheld radios, contracts, and cameras. Additional solid waste funding for their 5-year plan update, and also for increases to grants to municipalities. And additional workforce funding for the tuition, reimbursement, contracts, and outreach. So with that, I'm just going to get right into the numbers here as rolled up in the general fund. So this slide summarizes the general fund for 2024, 2025. Yes.
One question on the tuition reimbursement under workforce development. How is that different from the 1 million that you talked about earlier?
These are the ITA accounts within workforce development. These are all special revenue funds. These are for workforce participants.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Thank you. So this is different from the educational assistance program that council funds?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. When are you going to get to, are you going to get to that?
I'm going to get to
Okay.
that, Joe. Okay, let me just start again with the general fund. So this slide summarizes the general fund for 2024 and 2025. Basically, what we're showing here is that the budget is balanced for both years, In both years, 2024 and 2025, revenues exceed expenditures. So we have a balanced budget. This next slide summarizes general fund revenue by category for 2024 and 2025. So we're recommending a revenue budget of $599.2 million in '24 and $614.1 million in 2025. Charges for services are budgeted at $105.7 million in 2024. Sorry. Charges for services are budgeted at $105.7 million for both 2024 and, I'm sorry, not for both, for 2024, $109 million 2025. This includes a 5% increase over 2023. Fines and forfeitures budgeted at $9.3 million in 2024 and 2025. This is also an increase of 5% over the previous year. Interest is budgeted at $15.6 million in '24 and $16.1 million in '25. So this estimate
Director, what's the 2023 projection on that number?
on which one, I'm sorry.
Interest earnings,
It's fairly flat. Not much difference.
about 15 million? Yeah, 15 million.
There's not much difference there. These estimates were provided to us by Meter based on our investment portfolio, which is about $930 million.
Okay.
Intergovernmental revenue budgeted at $70.1 million in 2024 and $70.3 million in 2025. The majority of this is local government fund and also the state public defender reimbursements. Local government fund budgeted at $24.3 million in both years, and public defender reimbursements are budgeted at $32 million in both '24 and '25. And we made the assumption here that 85% reimbursement from the state public defender's office would hold. The remainder, $5 million, is the homestead exemption and $9 million in casino taxes. Licenses and permits are budgeted at $121,000 for both years, no change from 2023's projection. Other revenue budgeted at $13.8 for 2024 and $4.4 million in 2025. Both 2024 and 25 include a $1.7 million transfer from Road and Bridge and Sanitary for the purchase and renovation of the Harvard Garage, and $1.5 million transfer from the Garage Fund for renovations at the Huntington Park Garage. 2024 also includes a $10 million repayment on the Lumen loan. Other taxes are really bed taxes. They're budgeted at $10.7 million in 2024 and $10.9 million in 2025. Really no change from the 2023 projection. Property taxes budgeted at $36.5 million in '24 and $37.8 in '25. And then our biggest category, sales taxes, budgeted at $337.5 million in 2024 and $356.2 million in 2025. This is our normal 4% increase year over year.
What percentage increase?
4%.
4%.
4%.
That's a little larger than typically.
Than we've done in the past.
Yes, is that,
Yeah, we seem to be holding at that level, so I felt comfortable taking it at 4%. Last month's figure came in about $2 million higher than what we were projecting. Favorable.
so, given that inflation itself is 3 or 4%, you don't need much growth to get to that number. But if the raising of interest rates finally does soften the economy, there could be a risk to that number.
So the next chart just puts percentages on each category of revenue. So this slide summarizes budgeted expenditures by budget line for 2024 and 25. 2024 is budgeted at $599.2 million. 2025 budgeted at $614.1 million. Personnel services, other expenditures, and subsidies. The budgets for both years include initiatives mentioned previously.
Any questions by my colleagues on general fund revenues? Okay, we'll move on to expenditures.
So this is just a graph of expenditures so that you can see them by function of county government. And this is the reserve that I spoke of before. So the budgeted cash reserve for the general fund is $7 million, but only in 2024. It's the only one item it's related to our county hotel. So we've never funded this item previously and do not believe we'll need it in 2024. The assumption is the county hotel will need $13 million in '25. $3 million is in the capital reserve account at the county hotel, and $10 million is included in this budget for 2025.
Chair Miller?
Yes, Ms. Simon.
Question. On the previous page with this expenditure chart with public safety at 43% of our expenditures, how does that compare to the last budget cycle?
There's not much change.
Not much. It's
Councilman Simon.
consistent.
Councilwoman Simon, no. It's
Okay.
basically the same. I could bring that chart or.
So
send
is
you-
the chart basically, it's similar, right?
Yeah, it's very
Nothing
similar.
is.
Yeah, the
there's no
percentages vary a
outliers.
percent or two, but there's nothing drastic
Okay.
here. So this chart details our ending cash balance for each year. So at second quarter, we estimated 2024's beginning cash balance. It would really be our ending 2023 balance, but our beginning 24 at $218.7 million. 2024's revenue is budgeted at $599.2, expenditures at $530.8, subsidies 68.4. So we estimate an ending cash balance of $218.7. Not much different than the way we started.
Director, does the cash balance include unspent ARPA money? And if so, how much of that is in there?
Councilman Miller, it does include unspent. What I'm aware of now is the $53 million still set aside for the Justice Center is still available, but I think that the remainder is dwindling quickly based on what the county executives' initiatives have been, county council's initiatives have been. I believe that the spending is actually there where it needs to be.
Can you get us a number on the remaining ARPA funds other than the safety set aside?
Okay.
So I presume more of that ARPA money is going to be spent, and so probably the actual ending cash balance could be lower than this number, even if the budget operationally is in balance. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say the true ending balance is probably about $170 million.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Tron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The $53 million you said that was in the Justice Fund?
Yes, it's in the general fund, but set aside in the justice fund.
Right, but I would think that, have we entered into the contract? Or aren't we pretty close to allocating those funds for the purchase of the real estate?
Well, the funds are allocated, Councilman Tron. It's just a matter of making the payment whenever the purchase agreement is executed.
Okay, but those funds are, they're not readily available for any other purpose at this point in time.
No.
We've got a contract that's, I think it's probably in the negotiating stages, I would assume, and I would like to hope that no one is looking at those as being ARPA funds that are available for any other purpose other than what we've already allocated them for.
No, they're set aside specifically for this purpose.
Thank you.
Let me also go over 2025. So beginning cash balance, 218.7, 2025's revenue, 614.1 million, expenditures, 546 million, subsidies, 68.1, and the balance still remains unchanged because the budget is truly balanced. So based on the 2023 cash reserve requirement, we should be in balance or in compliance with our code requirement. So if I don't have any questions, I'll move on to the Health and Human Services levy.
Any questions?
The
Okay.
only comment I would make is I just think it would be appropriate to be marking on this slide that the justice funds have been identified and they're going to be spoken for to the tune of the amount that this body has already authorized. So it just seems to me the cash balance, to say it's 218, is probably not going to be correct very soon.
I would agree with you.
Thank you.
So at this point, I'm going to move over into the Health and Human Services Levy Fund. So this slide summarizes the Health and Human Services budget, more or less balanced. We have a small surplus in 2024, a small deficit in 2025. Both, I think, are very manageable. Revenue is fairly straightforward in the levy. It's either intergovernmental revenue, which is the homestead exemption at 16.1 million each year, and the two levies that are budgeted generate approximately $265 million each year, so for a total of $281.1 million. So this slide details the budgeted health and human service levy subsidies for each year by department. Subsidies are budgeted at $281 million in 2024 and $281.3 million in 2025. Same graph or chart basically puts percentages on all the subsidies. Again, summarizing the ending cash balance. Second quarter, we estimated 2024 to begin with $30.5 million. 2024's revenue is budgeted at 281.1. Subsidies budgeted at 281 million also. So we estimate the 2024 ending cash balance again to be $30.5 million. For 2025, we estimate a beginning cash balance again, $30.5 million. Revenue of 281.1, subsidies of 281.3, and we're estimating currently that 2025's ending cash balance would be $30.3 million. And based on this year, 2023's cash requirement, we should be in compliance with our code requirement of 10%. Questions about HHS before I move over to the all funds?
I don't see any questions.
So this slide summarizes the all funds budgets for 2024 and 25, very similar to what you've seen for general fund and levy. The budgets are balanced in both years with revenues exceeding expenditures. Here I'm a little briefer, so I got a chart that shows revenue by category percentage-wise. And then another chart, expenditures also by function of government. Go ahead.
Can I go back?
Sure.
Chairman Miller, to the director.
No
I had
problem.
a question about HHS, just as we're looking at the broad overview. Where is the say yes? Is there a say yes allocation? And if so, what is that number going to be?
Yeah, I believe the say yes allocation is just the general fund is the HHS levy fund that was initially budgeted. I believe it's about $1.6 million.
So it's flat.
Completely flat.
And we're not looking at any other expenditure advance, so no?
No, this
Okay.
year, the governor, I believe it was $4.5 million is what he's paying Say Yes, directly, not through the county, but directly.
Gotcha.
And that basically offsets what was being projected to be paid by Title IV-E.
By the Title IV.
Which was not materialized.
So nothing ever materialized, no. No, I'm not surprised. Thank you.
So, to follow up on Ms. Simon's questions, does that mean that Say Yes is covered at the current level for 2024 to 25 with the state assistance, or is there a gap?
Council Miller, it is covered.
It's covered, okay. Okay, thank you.
So these were just two pie charts, one for revenue and then one for the expenditures. I don't know, I just like these charts. I think they say a lot. So same process, ending cash balance. So 2024, the beginning cash balance is projected to be $1.1 billion. 24's revenue estimated at 1.7 billion. 2024 expenses 1.6 billion. So we should end up with a $1.1 billion ending cash balance again. For 25, much of the same. So we start out with 1.1. We add 1.7 in revenue and 1.7 in subsidies, so fairly flat at $1.2 billion. Leaves us in good shape. So at this point, I'm going to move over to capital. So these are our capital improvement plans for 2004 and 2025. For 2024, we have approximately $95.3 million in estimated capital improvement projects, $36.5 million in general fund projects, $20.3 million in road and bridge fund projects, and $38.5 million in special revenue fund projects. For 2025, we have approximately $196 million in estimated capital improvement projects, 57.7 in general fund projects, 34 million in road and bridge projects, and 104.3 million in special revenue fund projects. So you can see the projects here include county facilities, the county airport, road and bridge fund projects, and also IT projects. Facilities projects are funded with the general fund primarily. Airport projects are funded by with the combination of special revenue funds and general fund. Road and bridge projects are funded with federal, state, local. They're basically license fee dollars. And information technology projects are funded with the general fund. So this is a list of our projects, not necessarily what we're going to do.
So, my colleagues, does anyone have any questions about the capital plan? So I have a few, so I'll put them out there and then see if anyone else has any. And the first one is that regarding the facilities capital plan, the total projects listed total several times as much compared to the 10 million per year that we're budgeting with the enhanced subsidy. And my question is are we going to be able to fund any of the other projects beyond the 10 million? And if so, how will that happen? Or will those just have to be deferred to a future time?
Those projects at this point would have to be deferred to a future point in time. We're only setting aside $10 million for facilities each year.
And Director, have we identified which projects out of the projects listed are going to be chosen to be done with the 10 million?
I have not seen that list, Councilman Miller, but I could ask Matt Reimer or Mike Devert for a list of those.
Yes, I would like to receive that. I also noted that there's very significant expenses for the Justice Center. And my question is whether you expect we're going to make a firm decision as to whether the courts is going to remain at its current site in the Justice Center or not before making those large expenditures.
Council Miller, I'm really not comfortable answering that question. I don't have the information to answer that.
So, could we identify who would be able to respond to that question and get a response? It can be at the next meeting.
I'll have it ready for you.
Okay, thank you. Final question is that in addition to what's listed in the information technology plan, I learned that an estimated $6 million will be needed for the ERP upgrade to version 11, $2 million for next year, $2 million for 24, and $2 million for 24, 25, and 26. And my question is how will that be paid for?
Council Miller, the only real possibility for paying that would be through the general fund at this point, but it's not budgeted at all.
It's not budgeted,
No.
okay. Any other questions from my colleagues regarding the capital plan? Ms. Simon?
Just want to follow up what I just heard. Did I hear that we probably do need to upgrade, but it's not budgeted for the ERP?
What I understand is, yes, we do need an upgrade, but it has not been budgeted yet.
Yet? Okay. All right, well, I guess we'll do this process, have to consider that and factor it in someplace. Thank you.
Councilman Schron?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we just heard about the ERP, and we just heard $10 million for the hotel facility as far as we know that they wear out. We know beds wear out. We know that ERP gets dated and has to be upgraded. What else are you going to come up here and tell us that has been budgeted for that is not in any of these numbers? I assume that there's got to be other little pearls that are going to drop between now and whenever we finalize this.
Well, Councilman Strong, I would agree with you. There are things that we just don't know about yet.
No.
Always
Those
gonna come
are things we know about. We know that ERP needs to be, no one buys an ERP system without full knowledge that it needs to be upgraded at some point along the way. So that to say we don't know about that's a known factor. No one puts a hotel room together without knowledge that it eventually wears out. What else is out there that is not budgeted for that we know full well are items that are going to wear out that you're going to come and tell us?
Councilman Mike Chambers, I just want to talk briefly on the hotel. The hotel, as you know, we had waterfall buckets set up for capital, but during COVID, we lost 2 years. We kept that hotel open, so we lost 2 years of contributing the hotel's own operating money into these buckets. That's why we fell behind on the hotel. I just wanted to clarify that with you.
Okay,
So, I mean, that
I
was
will
something
buy
we
into
couldn't
that.
control, but
So we have $3 million in the bucket. Even if we were to collect the other two, it probably was only going to get us to 5 or 6.
once again, we had it set up that we were collecting money. I just want to address that at that point.
Okay.
But you're right, and that's why we always was going to be the general fund. However, they might have had better years. I mean, they're having so far a good year right now, and we'll find out how much more is going to go into that fund.
Okay. My question really, though, was you've told us 2 major items. Are there other major items that we're waiting to hear from? Are there other items that fully that we bought with full expectation at some point along the way, it's going to wear out, it's going to need to be updated, things of that nature, that we're going to be told about, that we all of a sudden now need to pick up? Because you don't live with an ERP system forever without updating. We all know that.
No, we do know that. The only thing that I'm aware of is, and Mike brought it to my attention, and it was part of the reason for the increase of the facilities budget was basically everything around you, carpets, furniture, things need to be replaced. This building is aging, as are the other buildings across the county. So that was our decision to increase the facilities capital budget, just for that purpose.
Yeah, I remember hearing this a couple weeks ago when we talked about the chairs in particular out there, because chairs were out, but I sure as heck would like to hope that every facility has a maintenance and wear factor in it that has been set aside and budgeted for, so that we don't get a shock. Now, it might get some upgrade as far as cost from what our forecasting would be, but we clearly should be forecasting for carpets wearing out and walls that need to be repainted and things of that nature.
Council President.
And do you have a sense of what the ERP, the dollar amount for the ERP will be an estimate?
Councilman Jones, I do not at this point.
Talking hundreds of thousands of dollars?
I think
millions
it's
of-
several million
millions of
if I was
dollars?
to guess.
The number I received was 6 million, which would be divided equally among 24, 25, and 26.
So we have a balanced budget, but does not reflect that potential cost.
Not reflected in the budget at this time.
Yeah, it's not in the IT capital plan either.
Correct.
Well, just a general question, why not put an estimate in it, 4 or 5 million, 6 million? Why not include it? What's the
Well, I
rationale?
agree with you, Councilman.
You agree that it should be in
Yeah,
there?
this is what I was provided from IT. This is what's in the budget now, without ERP.
Chairman?
Go
Well,
right ahead.
this is why we have a collaborative process. We're going to work on this together.
So,
Councilman Toole.
yeah, so just to the director, so are we saying this is a balanced budget or not? Because the ERP is not included, so that to me would say that it's not a balanced budget at this point. And I know it's a work in progress, but it was presented as a balanced budget, and it's quite a substantial cost not to be included. So, I mean, what are your comments on that?
Councilman Tuma, we put the budget together without that, the ERP cost that we're talking about right now. I haven't seen them yet. These are the first time I'm hearing about them. From a budgetary perspective, I always knew that there was going to be an ERP upgrade at some point in time, but I've not seen numbers that
Okay, yeah, I mean, the ERP is the gift that keeps on giving.
it is.
Councilman Sweeney.
Or taking.
Learn to love it, guys.
Through the chair to Walter, just on how a budget is created by the administration. The other budgets I've been processed or part of, the department comes up with their wish list. They give it to the finance department. Finance department goes through it and says, check this out, take this out, take this out, and that will be the final document submitted to the council. In this particular case, I think I just heard you say, this is IT budget, and you just submitted it as part of the budget document and without any pushback to the IT department.
Councilman Sweeney, we did meet with all the departments. We did go over these things. The ERP was not brought up during that meeting.
Oh, so it was just a oversight of it. You would have made a comment
Of course.
if it was there. So I was confused there. Now I have a full understanding, and I thank you for your extraordinary work over the years, and I look forward to having the privilege of interacting with you more regularly in the next 3 weeks.
Likewise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Anything else? Ms. Simon.
Two questions. One, just back to the ERP, is there a particular department that we're looking to upgrade, or is it just a general upgrade, if you know?
Councilwoman Simon, it's just a general upgrade. It would impact all departments that use the ERP,
And
whether
is-
it's HR, whether it's fiscal, whether it's budget, for example.
Okay, and then secondly, what about consideration of any requests from the CAVs for funding?
There is nothing in this budget relating to the Cavs.
I know that at least it was in Cleveland.com, there was a request for, I think, 24 million at one point, and I understand that we're going to have to probably consider that. So when and if that occurs, what part of the budget would we be, capital, the sale, where would we be looking to fund whatever needs to be upgraded.
To pay the Cavs, I don't think we could, there's no room in our budget to pay the Cavs that type of money. It would be general fund dollars. We don't have it.
Okay. But there's repairs and upgrade to our building that we own that we are definitely going to have to look at as the landlords and I'm not saying that I'm pro or con, I'm just saying this is something we're going to have to consider as owners of that building. And we know that that probably is going to come to us. And you're saying there's no money here, or it's just
Well, I
not
think we've
budgeted
got
here?
Capital reserve funds.
Capital, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah,
That's what I
available
asked
for
you.
them.
So
Yes,
not,
I'm
I know we're
sorry.
talking
Yeah.
about general fund.
Yeah. I thought you were alluding to
No, I just meant in
using-
general, so when
Okay.
we're looking at that, it's going to
There-
be a capital fund.
Yeah, there are
That's what
capital
I wanted to
funds
make
established.
sure about.
Yes.
So we don't have to look to the general fund.
No,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anything else on the capital budget? Okay, you may continue.
Next slide is our debt service. So as of January 1st, 2024, the county will have $1.2 billion in outstanding debt. We have 24 outstanding debt issues. In our 2024 budget includes $91 million for debt service, and 2025 includes $88 million for debt service. I can provide details on any or all of these outstanding issues if you'd like.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Simon?
what detail do you want to provide? I mean, is this going up within, I mean, what,
Oh,
It's
Councilwoman Simon, it's all in the budget book. It's in the debt section. It describes every debt, what the annual
Interest.
payments are, everything is here.
Interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Appendix E pages.
no, I'll read it. I just thought you sounded like you might want
No,
to say
it's-
something.
I can always provide additional
Okay.
information if somebody
No,
needs
the
one.
book is sufficient.
So, Director, just for everybody's knowledge, am I correct that if we did not issue any new debt, that gradually over time, there's things that are being paid off and the amount of debt service would be gradually decreasing?
Absolutely,
that
Councilman,
there's-
you are correct.
I think there's one or two that go off this year, and then there's some that go off in a couple years, and so there, and
So a lot of them are linked to the sales tax extension. When that expires, there's a lot of debt that falls off at that point as well.
and the schedules that you provided in the budget book list when the maturity date is for each of the debt items, so you know when they go off. Any further questions on the debt service? Okay, thank you.
Councilman Miller, at this point, I'd like to go on to the departmental budgets that have been assigned to me.
Okay,
So I'm going to start with the Board of Developmental Disabilities. These,
So-
all the slides are basically structured all the same. The budget's up on top with the
So-
few bullet points.
so before you do that, there was an item on the schedule about policy initiatives and an item about additions and reductions. Well, you pretty much covered the additions. My two questions would be, are there any specific policy initiatives that are reflected in this budget? And the second question is whether there's anything in the budget that's being reduced or eliminated from current levels.
Council Miller, the answer to both questions is no. There's no new policy initiatives at this point, and nothing has been reduced in the budget. This is really a budget about core services. I think we funded things properly.
Okay,
I have
thank
a
you.
question.
Yes.
Thanks for asking that question. So we were going to be looking at this, I think it's called the Freshwater Institute, some institute.
Yes, there was an item that was proposed on an agenda.
Proposed and then
Retracted.
retracted.
Yeah.
But that's not present
No,
that
it's-
you've seen any
It's
place?
not included in any of these
Okay,
documents. no.
thank you.
I would also mention for everybody that the tree canopy program was initially envisioned as a 5-year program, and that ends in 2024. And in this budget, it's funded for 2024, but not for 2025. And the word I have from the administration is that that we expect the administration to continue to be active in this area, but it would probably be in a different format than what we're currently doing.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that because it's actually one of the tangible ways we are combating climate change in a tangible, substantive way. So I hope to see that this will return to 25 unless there's something equally as impactful. So that's what thank you for bringing that up again.
Thank you. Okay, so the departments.
The department. So we're here with Board of Developmental Disabilities. As we all know, they provide support and services to residents within or with developmental disabilities. Primary revenue source here for BODD is a 3.9 mils levy. It's a continuous levy and it generates about $107 million each year. The 2024-25 budgets of 131.6 and 133 million they're really estimates on our part. It's a board-approved budget, and we generally don't get this budget till later in the year. So we will update it at that point in time.
So this is an operation that's basically autonomous and that we don't directly oversee, and so that's why we don't bring the director in on this budget.
The next department is the Law Library Resources Board. So the Law Library manages legal research library resources for municipalities and courts within Cuyahoga County. The budget is funded with special revenue, which comes from fines and fees from speeding tickets, which really surprised me. I had no idea that it was speeding tickets. The budget is $486,476 for 2024 and $494,077, relatively flat. The only thing that's in these numbers is the 2% cost of living and the healthcare increase. They did submit one decision item, but it was just a mere realignment from other expenses to personnel, so we went ahead and processed that. That was their request. Zero impact to the budget.
Okay.
The next department is Consumer Affairs. So Consumer Affairs is actually part of the fiscal office. So I'll just roll through this quickly, but Mike Chambers will talk about this more during his presentation when he does the overall fiscal office budget hearing. 24-25 budgets, $914,484, and then $936,847. Again, relatively flat. The only thing here is the 2% cost of livings and the 5% healthcare increases. I guess Mike will get into it more when he does his hearing. This is solid waste, the leading resource for information, expertise programs that support sustainable materials, management, and reduce the environmental impact of waste. The funding source here is 100% waste generation fees. The 24-25 budgets are roughly 2.1 million both years, relatively flat. Again, 2% cost of living, healthcare increases. And this is actually the budget that the board will adopt later this year. They did provide us an advance copy.
So, Director, say a little bit more about what the relationship is between the solid waste district and Cuyahoga County government. Why is this included in the budget at all?
Well, it's similar to our board. I believe they have their own board that approves their budget overall, very similar to Board of Developmental Disabilities. I mean, our budget includes includes these areas because they are ultimately part of the county. I mean, the levy that BODD has, it flows through the county. They use all of our services. I mean, these are the reasons that they're included in our budgets.
Yes, but we don't directly oversee them.
We do not.
Right, okay, thank you.
Chairman Miller?
Yes,
As chair of the board, it's just, a statutory agency that ORC dictates how we expend and administer funds from the waste generation fees. So it has to be connected with this, just like, soil and water to some extent, but this is totally a separate statutory entity. So it's a good question, why ORC?
okay, thank you.
The next department is going to be regional collaboration. So this department was established to support cost savings and cooperation between municipalities within the county and the county itself. Funding source here is general fund. The budgets for 24 and 25 are roughly $280,000, $281,000 in 24, 288, or 288 in 2025. Same parameters. The cost of living is in here and the 5% healthcare increases, but really nothing more. This budget is actually part of the county executive's department. It rolls up, if you will, on our reporting. I'm not sure what else I can say about this department.
I have a question. Chair, other expenditures, what's envisioned with that? I know it's in the book, but is it just supply? What do you?
Yeah, it's supplies and things, office type stuff. There's nothing
Okay.
there of substance. No.
So I just want to say that the tree canopy is a regional collaborative program that the municipalities really need and enjoy. So when we're looking at regional collaboration, perhaps there's money here, or it could be, to support that real type of collaboration. I'm just throwing that out there.
Chair?
Yes, Councilman.
Yeah, I just want to echo Councilwoman Simon's sentiments on that. I know that program's been used extensively by the municipalities, and they appreciate, and it is a good collaboration between county and municipality, and I'd like to see it continue in some form. So I just wanted to say that as well.
Thank you. Okay.
The next department is Soldiers and Sailors Monument. This department operates, maintains, and preserves the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Funding source for this, it's a very small department, is the general fund. Small budgets, roughly $200,000 each year. Same parameters here, 2% cost of living, 5% healthcare increases. They did submit a decision item, one decision item, and it was for $507 for training, but the ODI is not actually included in the budget.
Mr. Chair?
So they asked for $507 in training funds, but we didn't give it to them.
We didn't give it to them, correct.
Okay. Ms. Simon?
I just wanted to make sure that was correct, that it was 507 and not 5,000.
$507.
$500, okay. Well, I'm sure we'll be looking at that. Okay, thank you.
The next department is the Ohio State University Extension. So the extension creates opportunities for people to explore how science-based knowledge can improve social, economic, and environmental conditions. That's their charge. The funding source here is Health and Human Services levy dollars. Their budget is $222,300 for both years, or in both years. This amount hasn't changed in years. They've gotten the same number for at least the last 10 years. This number sticks in my mind. I've got it memorized. I've seen it so many times. They did submit one decision item for $28,000 each year to maintain current staff and space. And this decision item also was not included in the budget. Then we have the Board of Revision. So Board of Revision, basically here's property valuation complaints. The funding source here is the Real Estate Assessment Fund. Their budget's for the 2 years, 2.9 million and roughly 3.1 in 25. Again, I consider these budgets fairly flat because they only really include cost of living adjustments and healthcare increases. There was one decision item submitted here for additional space and also an annual maintenance fee for their complaint system. That decision item is included in the budget.
So, Director, is the Board of Revision currently caught up on complaint processing, or is there a backlog?
Council Miller, Mike Chambers would like to address that during his fiscal office hearing. I think he needs to find out.
Okay, and my other question is whether I'm correct that the expectation would be that the 2024 would be a low year on Board of Revision complaints, but 2025 would be a high year because of the fact that 2024 is the sexennial appraisal year.
Council Miller, I believe you're correct.
And after that year, we would expect to get a good number of complaints. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on the Board of Revision? For Director Chambers, I would also like to know whether the Board of Revision has made any changes up or down over the last 2 or 3 years in the number of boards that they had running. Thank you. Any other questions on the Board of Revision?
Just, I'm sorry, I'm asking too many questions, but the decision item on the space maintenance, what does that mean? Because they're housed here, right? They're in this building.
Yeah, but I believe they took up more space. So I
They
think
took
they're-
up more
I think
space.
they're being charged for more.
I see. Is that a chargeback?
It is, yeah, it's
okay.
a chargeback that comes
got it.
back to their budget from Public Works.
So I understand Director O'Leary is present from the Board of Revision. Can we have him come forward for a minute?
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
So are you able, from immediate knowledge, to answer any of the questions that I put out there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So I believe your first question was whether...
Excuse me, sir, if you could state your name for the record and speak louder into the microphone, please.
I apologize. Ron O'Leary, Administrator with the Board of Revision. Mr. Chairman, your first question as to whether we are caught up. We have scheduled, I believe we're currently scheduled for all of the remaining complaints that were filed this year. So we're scheduled out through, I believe, the middle of November. Anything that is beyond that would be cases where the parties have asked for continuances. So our plan is that when the tax year 2023 complaints begin to be filed after January 1st, we'll start scheduling those. We have to give a certain amount of time for notice. But yes, we are, this is probably the farthest along that the board has been in anyone's memory that's with the board.
And has there been any changes up or down in the last 2 or 3 years in how many boards you've had operating?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman. Typically, we add at least 1 or 2 temporary hearing panels, as the number of filings go up. So we anticipated in the last budget adding a temporary board, which we did. We budgeted for up to 3, I believe. But we got in just under 10,000 original complaints last year. So we only needed to add 1 temporary hearing panel. We no longer have that hearing panel because we're at the point that we can handle the workload with our 3 full-time boards. I do not anticipate needing a temporary board for next year, but as you pointed out, our numbers will go up for tax year 2024, calendar year 2025. So that's where we'll budget for at least one, and we'll probably budget for 2 temporary panels, but I'll decide, depending on the number of complaints that come in, whether we need 1 or 2.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else on the Board of Revision? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, is there anything else that anybody would like to ask about anything that we've discussed today? The floor is open for anything else. Okay, I'm not hearing anything. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think it gave us a good overview of the big picture on the budget, and so we'll be able to get more into the weeds as we start the departmental hearings, which start next Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So, does anybody have any miscellaneous business?
Actually, before Walter leaves, almost got away.
Oh, no, it's okay.
But again, I want to just sort of recap that conversation around the ERP and potentially $6 million and other expenses. It's not like this is new. We've done this enough times where we've seen it and come back 6 months later and ask for more. It's a balanced budget today, but there are things that are unsaid. And it's not like, and I'm just laying it out plain. It's you could go back and find 6 million things that you'd have to change, but those may be the things we want, but you don't come back 6 months to ask for those. This ERP is going to be necessary. So it's like you ask for what you need 6 months later. So I'm just putting it out there just so it's like we all know what it is. We just need to hear and want to feel like we're not being
I understand, Councilman. I do understand.
Thank you. I don't have to verbalize it.
Yeah, between now and when the budget is actually approved, we'll go back and take a look at it.
There are other things. There was $2 million that was pulled a few weeks back for the Lakefront Membership Association, something like that, So I could go back and try to figure out the little things, but could they be in the budget even for smaller dollar amounts? And I'm just brainstorming right now, so at least we see them. They're and that, not even saying do that. I'm just really just talking out loud, but you understand. You understand where I'm going, where my thoughts.
We'll go back and take a look at that capital budget for IT and make sure that it's trued up to where it needs to be.
There we go. Let's work together on it. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
So, I would just add that one of my primary goals is exactly the same as what Council President Jones just said, that we want to see everything that we reasonably expect that we should do and have to do is included in the budget and not dealt with later. I want the budget to be as comprehensive and complete, and if doing that causes financial problems, well, then we have to deal with those. But I want it to be fully reflective so that we have a good understanding of exactly where we are. So I know that the executive and his administration share that perspective, and together we're going to work on making that happen. Anything else? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thanks.